right, welcome back to another episode here of Unmuted, where real voices get loud. We've been a few weeks away, we've been doing life and doing business and everything else in between, Sandy, and it's just you and I tonight. I
Yes.
thought what it could be really good for us is for you and I just to interview each other and for our guests to get to know us a bit better. So, Sandy, I think probably a really great place to start is to sort of give you a bit about your background and a bit about your story and, sort of talk a little bit about your story. But here's the catch. You got to do it in 2 minutes or less. So what's your story, Sandy?
My brain is not firing enough today for that, Jeff. I just got back from a trip to Jordan. So I guess I could say that's my whole entire story is I've been around the world and back. I've done so many things. I'm a Jackie of all trades, I guess, which I used to think
I
was a
love that.
problem, but now I realize it's not. Uh, my story, I was born in Switzerland. I grew up in California. So yes, I am European and American, like a real one, not by name only. And I studied graphic design, visual communications, worked for some amazing photographers in Los Angeles, got a degree in that, started personal branding when personal branding wasn't even a thing. We didn't have a term for it back then. And I was building websites and designing logos for celebrities. And today I still help people in that realm. I do it a little bit differently because I work through the psychology of their brands to help them be better versions of themselves
I love that.
and really help them stand out against their competition in the world and get their message across. So there you go. It involves photography, it involves design, it involves psychological woo woo. And yeah, and I still travel. So
And it involves well travel. So you just got back from Jordan, did you say? That's a really
yes.
fascinating place to go to. What was the attraction to go to Jordan?
Well, part of what I do is I work with these incredible people. And I realized I have such a vast group of incredible people that I said, let's bring them together. So my
Mhm.
husband, Ken, and I, we decided to do these group trips. And we've been doing them for a while. But last year was the whole lockdown was the real one that we did. So we did Thailand, Nepal, and Cambodia with a group of about 18 people. And this year we did a group of about 17 people to Jordan. And the people that are coming are mostly clients or people that we work with or we know, but we know how to curate them in a way that they build businesses together, they spark new ideas, they do kind of really cool ventures, all kinds of
Mm.
things happen. And this trip to Jordan was so mind blowing. In one day, people got to ride a horse, ride a camel, and ride a donkey while touring Petra. And it was insane. So, also in another day, we floated in a hot air balloon over Wadi Rum Desert. And Wadi Rum Desert, in case you don't know, is where they filmed The Martian and a bunch of other movies. Dune was
Fascinating.
filmed there.
Okay.
And so we floated in a balloon. And then by that evening, we were swimming in the Red Sea, which was so warm and incredible, looking at
Now,
Egypt,
is it the
Israel, and standing in Jordan.
is it the Red Sea is the one that you float, or is that the Dead Sea? That's I can't
That's the
remember.
Dead Sea. We did that
Right.
too. And that was
Okay.
so cool. And
Yeah,
I guess
right.
it was kind of weird because it is winter technically there. So it was cold, but it wasn't freezing. And when we went to the Dead Sea, it was cool on the outside when you weren't in the sea. Then when you got in, the first inch, like about this much of water was freezing,
Mm.
freezing. And then underneath it, it was warm.
Yeah, right, interesting.
It was weird. So we're floating and our bums were warm, but our bellies were cold.
Reason, yeah. That would have been, an assault on the senses for sure.
Yeah, it was so weird. But
Mm.
Jordan is such an incredible place. The food is so delicious. I mean, I ate way too much. And the people are so kind. We're in Wadi Rum, and years ago I had been to Jordan with my husband, and we met a Bedouin tribe because I,
Okay.
of course, had to stop and take pictures of the baby camel I saw. And they invited us to their tent. They offered us tea. We befriended them. I connected with one of their sons on Instagram. Years later, I reach out to him because I'm like, hey, we're going to be there. Let's see if they're around. He responds and says, hey, we just had another baby camel. You should bring your group and come and see it.
Oh,
So
so
our
cool.
whole group got to see the baby camel. It was a beautiful, white, fluffy baby camel, which they're so soft. And it was just so incredible hanging out with them, spending time with them. So,
I used to, work on horse studs, and one of my jobs I used to do was foal down mares. And so I assume that, camels and horses, other than being a little bit more fluffy, are probably very similar in the foals. And do they call them calves? I think is a camel. Is it called a calf, or what is a baby camel called?
I don't know. We didn't ask. They said it in Arabic, and we went, "Oh, baby camel."
Baby
I don't
camel.
know. But you know what's so cute
That's
about
great.
these baby camels? First of all, they're not that small. I mean, in proportion to a camel, they're huge, but I mean, the
Yeah,
thing was
yeah,
almost as tall as I was, and it was only
yeah,
2
yeah.
weeks old, so they're still kinda big. Their fur or their hair is so silky soft,
Soft.
it feels
Yeah,
like yeah, it's almost like have you ever felt an alpaca? Like,
yeah,
alpaca hair is insanely
yeah,
soft, but camel wool is not.
yeah.
So it gets coarser over time and it's not as soft. But the baby ones, they felt like fluffy, puffy, fluffy, and they were so cute and they would look in at everyone. They were trying to hide, but they couldn't get away because they were very awkward. And the mom was super sweet. And I got to milk her. I've never milked a camel until
There
now.
you go. There you go.
But and I did taste the milk. It was milky.
It was
Ugh,
good.
I'm not a milk
I
fan.
assume it
Ugh.
was very bitter.
No, it was sweet, but it was I just don't like milk. I have gag reflex to milk, trauma from my
Right.
past, I
Milk.
guess.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was sweet, I guess. But
Yeah.
my friend tried it and she loves milk and she said it was so delicious and I was just like, "Oh."
I'll
But,
take your word for it.
it's supposed to be really good for you.
One of the things I love about travel, though, is it just opens up the whole horizon. It gives us a different perspective on way, especially Bedouin tribes. Like that's fascinating, And I got to go to India last year, and we did what we call a cultural trip. So it wasn't just the touristy trip. Like we actually went into the slums areas. We went into the jungles. Like we went to this one area right in the middle of India. It's called Bhopal. It actually stands for the center of India. and
Wow.
and we went into this place where we went out to this school, and we're driving 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 through all of this jungle, and we get to
What
this.
were you doing? You were driving?
So we're driving, yeah, we're driving, and
How much were you driving?
a while. Felt like a long time. And then all of a sudden we get to this clearing out of this jungle, and we get to this space, and they've got these like, must have been 15-foot fences, and they've got these watchtowers around this complex. And it's like, what are the fences for? What are the watchtowers for? And it's a school, and what the watchtowers are for and what the fences are for to keep the tigers out.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it sounds like when we were in Africa.
It's like to keep the tigers out. It's like it looked like a concentration camp at this school with all of these watchtowers around. I'm thinking that's a school. Anyway, we got in there, and they're the most beautiful people. They're the most gentle souls, and wonderful, amazing people. And yeah, it's like they got spotters at nighttime, and so these kids they walk for kilometers to go to school, and so we say that we're translating in India and all that sort of thing, and we're having a conversation with them. So we said, "How do the kids get home from school?" "Oh, they walk." And so we've got to make sure that they're out of the school by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so they don't walk in the dark and they get home before dark. And they go, "What happens if the kids are home before dark?" "Well, they'll probably get eaten by a tiger." So it's like, wow, and it's like put just
That
things
is
in
not
perspective
fun.
on how we live in our Western comfort world, and these kids are walking miles and miles and miles to school, and they've got to get home before the tigers get them. It's like crazy.
It's true. It's like even in Jordan when we were in Petra, which is what's famous about Petra is people know it best from the Indiana Jones film, Indiana Jones
Mhm.
and the Last Crusade,
Yeah,
where he goes and he gets the chest thing that has the
yeah, yeah. One
spirit
of my
thing on it.
favorite films. Yeah,
Yeah, that was in Petra, and that's called the treasury. It's the first part of Petra. And the reason they called it the treasury is they thought that treasure was in it. It was actually a tomb. But, point is, beyond that is even more. Like that's a tip of the iceberg. Just
yeah.
a
Wow.
teeny, teeny bit of Petra. So when you go past that, there's so much more. There's the monastery, and that's where we rode the donkeys up. And along the way, there are all of these children, these Bedouin children. I have to tell you, Jeff, they were so impressive. I was joking, but I don't know, subconsciously, maybe I wasn't joking. I was like, I want to take a couple of you home and I'm going to hire to do my social media and all. I mean, these kids were
Oh,
so on it. They don't own cell phones. They don't. So they take your cell phone. They know how to navigate it. They're so
really?
good with the camera. Some of the images they were capturing were like, this is better than the people I pay so much money. I mean, all the classes I've taken, these kids are 100 times
Fascinating.
better. They're so talented. And their English is actually very, very good, given the fact that they don't go to school to learn English. They're
Wow.
learning it from the tourists. So if you say something really advanced, they kind of look at you like, man, they don't understand. But basic stuff, they get it very well. And they're high energy. They are working. They're driven. They're not like these lazy kids nowadays that just don't want
Yeah.
to work and just want to be influencers. These are hardworking people. And it's fascinating to watch how they navigate the system. I
What
mean,
I
the
find
way that they
fascinating about
deal with the camels and the horses
yeah,
and the donkeys and the way they hustle and they grind, and everyone has devices so they can do tap pay now, which is so weird.
entrepreneurial. I noticed that in some of the other countries I've been to. But what I find fascinating about that whole conversation is the whole thing about nature versus nurture.
Yeah.
You know, and out of necessity, out of being entrepreneurial, really, they've had to get very solution focused.
Yes.
And I love that environment. Like that's a recipe right there for success. Let's unpack
It-
that a little bit. What was some of the wisdom and lessons that you took from that?
well, first of all, I'm going to get myself in trouble, but the men there are men. And
Yeah,
when I
right.
say men, they all have beards. They're
Yeah.
all just rugged and masculine. Like they will, if you are falling off a camel, they will fly under you and pick you up and rescue you. Like these are
Chivalry.
men,
Yeah,
men.
like chivalry men.
And the way they hustle, the way they work, and their conversations, it was so funny. We met one guy who, by the way, all the girls were swooning over him. He was a
Yeah.
Jordanian Bedouin, so handsome, so masculine, all his muscles and he had long hair, but it looked so good. He even had eyeliner on. And the girls were like,
Sounds like a
what?
movie scene right now.
Right? Because, when men wear eyeliner in, like the Western world, it's kind of like, oh, okay. It's not the same. When these guys wear eyeliner, you're like, "Why are you so hot? Oh my god, I'm melting." Even my husband was like, "That guy's
No,
really
don't
handsome."
take
I'm
my
like,
wife to Jordan. Don't take my wife here.
don't or if you do, put blindfolds on her because you don't want her to see these men. They are gorgeous, okay? I actually was joking around about making a calendar of all the handsome men of Jordan because 'cause they're everywhere. They are gorgeous.
That's
But
hilarious.
so this guy has this dark eyeliner, which apparently it helps the black eyeliner they put around their eyes. It helps so they don't absorb as much light into the eyes. So it helps them. I guess that's why, but it makes them smoking hot. And they all have, even the women, the most beautiful eyes. They have these gorgeous hazel green and like very light amber colored eyes. A few might have like a bluish color, but mostly it's hazel, amber, honey colored eyes. They're gorgeous. And so they're walking around looking at you, asking questions. They're so kind. They don't pressure you to buy. They ask you and then they say, you know what? If it feels right for you, come back. Well, I've been to other countries where they're like, buy, 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 buy. And it's
Yeah.
just annoying. This,
Yep.
they're like, you know what? If you come back here, we would love you to come through our shop. Why don't you try this sample? Like they're very polite, very respectful, very kind, gracious. They are always offering you things. They
Mm.
offered us all kinds of tea. They have the Arabic coffee, which is, I think it's made out of date seeds or something, but it was so good. It has cardamom in it. They would offer you to sample things. I mean, they're just so nice. There's pressure, but there's not at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
The people there, you can just tell they just don't stop. I mean, they're always doing something. They're always walking, working, grinding, hustling. And it's impressive. When you watch it, it makes you motivated. Like the people in our group are like, I feel like I have to work harder.
I'm not doing enough. Yeah, yeah, I get that.
Right. Yeah, it was amazing. So
You're
I don't
making me
know.
want to
If you
go for
haven't been to
sure now.
Jordan, I recommend it for everyone to go. It's one of those places in the world that's just so unique. And the one thing about the Bedouin, when we were there, we befriended some more Bedouin, and they said that they just love the desert. Just something about
No.
it. They love to walk out into the desert and just smell the flowers, which is like to find one is rare. And feel the soil, the dirt, the sand, the way that life is to them is so unique. They could be out there for days without even cell phones. They just love it. They camp out there. They follow their camels. And the funny part is we when you're there, you get different TikTok, you get different Instagram, you get the local stuff. And we would watch about these people, these tourists that would go there and not really respect the culture. And they would see these camels with the feet bound and they would release them. And it's a problem because apparently what most people don't realize is camels in Jordan are the fastest camels in the world. They win a lot of races. And because they're the fastest camels, it's just it's a unique genetic sequencing of this type of camel. They don't exist anywhere else. They're very unique. They can go further and faster than any other camel. So when their feet are not bound, the local Bedouins who use them for milk and for hair and for racing lose their camels because they run away really far and they
Yeah.
can't get them.
We used
And
to,
they can go far in a day.
We used to do the
So
same thing with our horses when because I worked on cattle stations and horse studs growing up as a kid, and we used to like go droving and with our horses. So we used to bound our horses' legs together at night time. So it's for the same reason, so
it's the
they
same
couldn't
reason.
gallop off, and so we could actually have a bit of a sleep and whatnot. And the horses are happy; they just eat there and munch along and whatnot.
Yeah,
But they stay next to the camp. They might move around a little bit, but they're not going to gallop off for the same reason. It's fascinating when people see that and they don't understand
they
that.
don't understand.
So
So they let them go.
tourists think you're being cruel to the horse or cruel to the camel, so they go and let them go, and it's, yeah,
Exactly. And that's what happens there. So the
puberty,
Bedouin were
right?
very clear. And you know, it's funny, the mom camel, she's not bound because she's not going to
Mm,
go anywhere because her baby can't go anywhere. And the
yeah.
baby camels aren't bound. So they're walking around free as a bean, like, woohoo, I'm having fun.
Mhm.
And it's just fascinating to see the way that they treat their animals. They're so kind to them. It's funny because when we were there all those years ago, the boy we ended up befriending that we reconnected with, he had a baby camel at that time. And I said it was black and white. And I was like, oh my God, it's so cute. It looks like an Oreo cookie. And he goes, Oreo. Okay, we name it Oreo. Well, of course he spelled it wrong because he didn't know
Yes.
what an Oreo was. But I was like, it's named Oreo. It's so cute. And I told him, I said, if you are very kind to this camel and you pet it all the time and you let all of your friends pet the camel and you just are constantly being friends with it will be a nice camel. And then you can have people take pictures with the camel and it won't spit at them or be mean. He listened to me. Years later, I go back and he introduced me to Oreo again.
That's cute.
She was so sweet. I could hug her. I mean, she hasn't seen me since she was, I think when I met her, she was like a week old. I could hug her. I could pet her, anything I wanted. And she was pregnant. So he's like, yeah, she's going to have her first baby. Now she's about 3 years old. It was about 3 years ago. And he said, we've done the same with other camels. His camels were so friendly.
Fascinating.
You could walk up to him, pet him. The baby ones, you could just pet him and kiss them. They would kiss you back. Like they were so gentle, no spitting, no biting, no running away, no pushing, none of that because he listened to me. And it's
Mm,
fascinating because now the way that they work with their camels and people stay with them and they have a Bedouin tent area that you can stay at. And people get to do a camel experience that they didn't really do before. It's just
wow.
fascinating. I
It is
just love it.
fascinating.
But
Actually,
enough
tasted
about
that
me and Jordan. Jeff, do you know where the most camels are in the world? And I'm talking about wild camels.
Australia, Simpson
Yep.
Desert.
Exactly. So let's
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about you. We have some time left. Let's go into you. Let's hear everything about you, Mr. Australian. And by the way, how do you spell Aussie? Is it Ozzy or is it Aussie?
Aussie,
Because I
and
asked an Aussie recently and he said, "Well, it depends."
no, it doesn't depend at all. He's not an Australian.
Yeah, he's been out for a while.
He might not be from Australia, but he might be from Australia.
It's Australia. Yeah,
Australia,
exactly.
Australia,
So
Australia.
tell me about you. Let's know everything.
Yeah, cool. So left school at year 9, so high school dropout, and went and worked on cattle stations and horse studs straight out of school. Did apprenticeship cabinet making. So you talk about Jackie of all trades. I think I'm the Jack of all trades. I've gone from working on the land to building kitchens and everything else in between. Had a horse accident when I was 26. I was actually
Whoa.
coined, and before that, I was actually coined to be one of Australia's top horsemen. I won a lot of events in camp drafting and Western pleasure and everything else in between. And I was taught by some of the top Australian horsemen in the country, Pat Pirelli, if anybody knows that name.
What
Um,
happened?
I had a horse jump on my neck. Um, so lucky to be walking, lucky to be talking, lucky to be alive.
How did
Um,
that happen? Were you, like, laying on the ground trying to, like, play with the horse? What? How does
you
it
would
jump?
think like, how does someone get their head on the ground and get a horse to jump on the neck, right? Well, let me tell you. So I worked on horse studs. So I was this actually happened in New Zealand. I was working in Waikato region there in Matamata, near Hamilton. And so I was working for one of the biggest horse studs in New Zealand with the thoroughbred racing horses. And I was the stallion manager at the time. And so my job was to look after all the stallions, but it was also in breeding season to look after the stallions. So to help them to, do their job with their mare. So in these horse studs, we had breeding stables, and that's based so where it's all done very controlled environment, very safe environment most of the time. And so this in this case, there was a maiden mare. It was her first time being serviced. I was normally looked after the stallions and did that side of things, while other people held the mare and looked after the mare and that side of things. I could see that this mare, she was, I'd done this 1,000 times, right? So with experience, you can sort of sense the energy and you can sense the horse. And I could see this mare was very flighty. She was very, she was really bound up like a tense rubber band, about to bounce off. So I made an executive decision at that point. I was the most senior person, experienced person in the shed. So I would hold the mare this time and have someone hold the stallion. And for safety for us and for the horse and for everybody else, we had her doped. And so this sounds pretty cruel at the time, but it looks pretty cruel, but it's all done for the safety of the horse and everything else. Anyway, so the stallion's gone and gone to jump on her and do his thing, because with thoroughbreds, there's no artificial insemination. It's all done natural. And in that space, and as the stallion's gone to jump on her, I'm holding the mare, and while the other bloke's hold the stallion, I've never seen a horse do it. First time I've ever seen it, and the last time I've ever seen it. She bounced off the ground, all 4 feet up in the air at the same time, come back down on her feet, and she struck me in the chest. She knocked me to the ground, and she just went for me. She attacked me. And I had a helmet on and all that sort of thing, but she jumped on my head and stood it into the ground. And I was knocked out at this point in time. I woke up in hospital with some pretty bad injuries. And yeah, they said the horse jumped on me. So, um,
Holy
yeah, so it was, that was the end of that career. And so
You are
I did,
so lucky you survived that. Those horses.
yeah. Yeah, but basically, this mare would have been 600, 700 kilos, and the stallions, it was a a recipe for disaster in that conversation. It was just a perfect storm scenario, and everything could go wrong, did go wrong, but done it thousands and thousands of times before, and so experience. Even though you've got experience, you still can have pretty bad accidents like that. And
So I have
I'm
to ask
uh,
the burning
26,
question that everyone
26
wants an answer to right now, Jeff.
what's that?
Did she get pregnant?
Yes, she did.
No way.
So after that event, they brought her back around for a second go around, and they got her pregnant. So yes, she did get
Ooh.
the role. And when you're talking with these type of horse studs, there's millions and millions and millions of dollars on the table, and greed and money can drive things, and that's a production. It's very much a the stallions. Well, the stallion that I was looking after, his name was O'Reilly. He was one of the top stallions in New Zealand at the time. He would serve anywhere from 3 to 4 mares a day, for the 3 to 4 month period. And so one of the stallions I used to look after in Arrowfield, up in Scone in the Hunter Valley, New South Wales, his name was Reduced Choice. And so Reduced Choice, his service fee was at the time was $275,000 per service.
My
And he did
gosh.
he had to serve 4 mares a day, so you do the math, and over probably about a 120-day period for the season, so 4 months, and so you do the math. There's hundreds of millions and millions of dollars in the ground.
What? That's
Uh,
crazy. So wait, so you got stomped on. How long were you in the hospital for?
a couple of weeks, and then I recovered, and I went back home. I was out of action for probably about 6 months, and then I did go back to work and tried to go back to work too early, and not fully recovered and fully healed. And by the time I was 30, the doctors pretty much wrote me off, and they put me on a disability pension. They said I had three crushed discs in my neck, one bulging, and my brachial plexus, my nerve area in my shoulder was pretty much shot. I had to retrain my right arm, but I lost all my strength and my ability in my right arm.
Oh
So,
my gosh, that's just
yeah.
crazy. You are so lucky you're still here with us today.
Yeah.
So wait, so how did you get to doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, great questions. After I went through my identity crisis of all that, because I basically had, plans and designs of being, that was my life. I was going to work on horse studs. I was already sort of, 26 into it, pretty good at what I was doing. At the stage, 27, got married, 29, had our first son on the way. So by the time I'm 30, the doctors have wrote me off and put me on a disability pension. And I wallowed in my self pity for probably about 6 to 12 months. Then I had a beautiful mentor who kicked me on my ass and he said, Jeff, you got nothing but time on your hand. What are you going to do with it? And so I sucked it up and I said, right, well, what am I going to do with it? And so I turned to the world of online internet marketing back in 2009, 2010, and haven't looked back. If it wasn't for that horse accident, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today, sitting here talking to amazing people like yourself. So, I've come to learn that, everything in life has a blessing in disguise. Sometimes you just got to look a little bit harder for it. And, in that space. It helped me to learn to be resilient. It helped me to be the person I am today. And, I've been on this entrepreneurial crazy ride now since 2010. So what's that? 16 years. It's been an up and down. I've made millions of dollars in this space, lost millions of dollars in other things and everything in between. And, it's put me in a position now to be empathetic with other people on the same journey and to meet them where they're at and to really as John Maxwell talks about, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And, to be someone who's not just an influencer, but to be a guide on the journey, to be that leader on the journey, to help to guide people, up the same mountain, but also to recognize the death defying cliffs and the red flags and to point people in the right direction. So that's what I love about this journey so far. And it's been an amazing ride. But I lost. There's been a couple of times in my journey where I've had similar things where I've learned to be really grateful for the trials and the tribulations of it all. That was probably just the first one. I lost my business due to COVID overnight. It was a $1 million digital
Same here.
marketing agency,
Yep.
and lost it
Same here.
overnight. Clients and retainers and everything else in between. I had 5 people working for me full time, and learning to go through that journey and navigate that journey with the horse accident helped me to be a little bit more resilient and bounce back a lot quicker going through the other journey. So, just things make you stronger. I don't think life gets easier as you get older, but we do get wiser and stronger.
Yeah. Sometimes I think about that. If I knew what I know now when
Mm,
I was 20, I'd be a
right.
billionaire.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have partied so hard. I probably wouldn't drink so much. I remember I was like a bit of a cowboy, so I did get into the party scene and all of that sort of thing a bit back then. But as I said, it's maybe for who I am today, and you got to be learned to be grateful for all your trials and tribulations because they're the character building things. Yeah.
Incredible. Okay. So, next question. How many Tasmanian devils have you seen?
Quite a few. They're pretty common. Yeah, they're the ugliest looking creature you'll ever meet in
Are,
your life.
are they just running around in the wild or are you going to the zoo to see them?
No, they run around the wild, and so we used to go campy a lot with our kids out in the bush and stuff. Whatnot, and you not necessarily see them; they are a nocturnal creature, but you will hear them, and they have this really god awful growl. Well, it's like this hiss and this growl. It's like, oh yeah, that's a Tassie devil. You get used to them, but the first time you hear it, it's like, what pit of hell did you climb out of?
You
That's
know
why
what's so funny?
they called a devil for a reason,
You're all the way in Australia. You got all the crazy animals. I have a friend who called this morning and I spoke to them. They're in Texas and
right?
they just got a kangaroo. And they're telling me, and I saw it. It was hopping around their living room.
How did they import a
Think,
kangaroo?
Jeff, it was wearing a diaper in their living room, hopping around. It's about 4 feet tall, so it's not that big yet. It's still a baby.
Yes,
It's only about.
yes.
He said it's in the womb for 6 months, but it's been out of the womb for 6 months. So, or in the pouch, right? So it's a year technically, even though it's 6 months out of the pouch. The thing is huge already, and he says it's the biggest variety. So it's going to be that 7 foot tall roo.
9 foot. I've seen them go, out in the bush. I have literally seen kangaroos get up on their back tail with their feet and go like, "Shh," like this with raptor claws and gut dogs to bits. Like they're not the most friendliest creature.
So he says he and his wife are having a dispute right now because this adorable Roo, first of all, they want to name it some stupid name like Boomble Boo Boo or something. I don't know. She wants to name it Roo. I'm like, you can't name it Roo. That's like calling your cat meow. Like, it's stupid. Don't do that. I said, you got to name it something cool. So when people meet it, they're like, oh, how cute. Like Thomas. Name it Thomas, the kangaroo. That's so cute. Put it in a
You could
necktie or
always
something.
call it Jack. there's a whole nother
No,
story around that.
that's a whole movie, right? Wasn't the
Yeah,
movie
right.
Jack the Kangaroo? No, name it
Yeah.
Thomas, name it Paul, name it Jeff, name it something cute that was like a human name for a kangaroo, which people would be surprised by, which would be cute. Anyway, that's not the point. The point here is they're in a dispute right now because apparently, if you give this roo the snip snip, it will only be about 6 feet tall. But if you let it go full steam with all of its junk
There's
intact, it's
there's
going to be a
testosterone, yeah.
giant beast. And he doesn't want the thing to kick the hell out of him when when it's at full mass.
You know what? I've never heard of anybody desexing a kangaroo before.
Apparently, when you do, they stay smaller and they're more gentle. And when you don't,
Well, I've worked on cattle studs. I've worked on horse station, and all that sort of horse studs. I can understand the theory and the logic behind all that. But I can officially say I've never heard anybody desex a kangaroo.
I heard it this morning. I heard it
That is
this
a
morning.
first for me. I didn't
Yep.
even know it was possible that you could do it. There you go.
Yep. Yep. And so my question, of course, is can you just be so kind and loving and train the kangaroo so that you don't need to give it the big snip and it'll be a giant beast that's friendly? And he paused and went, maybe. So they like to have three of everything. They own a farm. They own actually
I'd be
two
wanting to
farms
make
in
sure that you
Texas.
clip those claws and kick those claws down.
Apparently, they're not a problem right now.
Not
He gave us
now. Not
we
now.
visited his farm when he had one because he has 2 ranches. Technically, they're ranches. He just got a second ranch, and the one we visited before the Roo had horse no, cattle, pigs, but the really cute ones, you know, the little mini pigs that are spotted
Yeah,
and,
the
like,
the
super cute?
pot-belly ones. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the potbelly, they have those. They have the miniature goats. They have chickens, and now they've have even more
So
animals,
they've got a
including
real
the
menagerie
kangaroo.
going on, like a real
They
menagerie, like
do. They
everything else.
do.
Noah's Ark
And
almost, 2 of everything.
yeah, no, he says 3. You have to get 3 of everything. So
Right.
apparently now that they have 1 kangaroo, they're going to get 2 more.
Okay. That's an interesting story.
Yeah, and they're
Well,
not in Australia.
we're about running out of time for this episode. For everybody who's tuning in, thank you very much for listening to us just to ramble on like 2 crazy kids, one from America, one from Australia, and pretty well traveled.
Wait, I'm in Thailand.
Well,
Don't
you're
get
in
me wrong
Thailand.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, like Swiss, Thailand, American, Jordan. Like there's a
There you
whole lot
go.
going on here. Make sure you reach out and subscribe to the channel and share this with your friends, of course. And this podcast is brought to you by the Los Angeles Tribune and everything else in between. We're many networks around the show, but this is Unmuted, where real voices get loud. Thank you very much.
See you next time.